All right, there's a copy of the agenda in the chat box.
We're just waiting for you to say something amazing.
Something amazing. There you go. I can say goodnight, Gracie, too, if you ask.
Well, I'm not actually a Koha user, so I'm sort of creeping on your guys' meeting.
So that wouldn't be a horrible way to start. It's what we did yesterday at the circulation meeting, but why don't we introduce ourselves? I'll just point at the people on my screen and say your name, and we can do it that way. But I am George Williams. I am the Next Search Catalog Coordinator at Northeast Kansas Library System, and I am the leader of this group. Sometimes I think I'm the leader of different groups because I can never keep them all straight because I go to a whole bunch of them. And I see on the screen next to me is Joel. So
hello, I'm Joel Fast. I'm the network admin systems guy for the Plum Creek Library System.
I bet that looks great on a business card.
Yeah, it's a little bit wordy, but
next on my screen, I see Jason.
I'm Jason Robb. I'm the Seek and Find Coordinator at the Southeast Kansas Library System in Southeast Kansas.
The next one on my screen is Alex.
How you doing? I'm the software admin for the Ramapo Catskill Library System in New York.
Next is Miranda.
Hi, I'm Miranda Nero. I'm the head of cataloging for the Ocean State Libraries Consortium in Rhode Island.
Next is Christopher.
I'm Christopher Brannon with the Coeur d'Alene Public Library and the soon-to-be dissolved Cooperative Information Network.
Yeah, you don't get to come to this meeting anymore after you're not in a consortium.
We'll see.
Next on my screen is Renee.
Hi, I'm Renee Palermo from Ocean State Libraries. I'm the Systems Director.
It sounds like you're in an airport.
I'm actually in a coffee shop outdoor seating area.
Cool. Next on my screen is Elizabeth.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Hoffman with the Plum Creek Library System. I am the director.
Next, I see Amber.
Hello, I'm Amber Hoskins with North Central Kansas Library System. I'm the catalog coordinator, and this is actually the first meeting I think I've made it to in person. So I feel like kind of an observer at this point too. So.
Congratulations. Next up, I see Sarah.
Hi, I am Sarah Damery. I work for Butler University Libraries, but I am the fulfillment consultant for the Private Academic Library Network of Indiana.
Nice to meet you. And then the last person on my screen is Ben.
Hi, I'm Ben Wolf. I am support for Aspen Cat Libraries, which is a part of the Colorado Library Consortium. And if you all know Bob Benhoff, I work with him.
Cool. So I posted the agenda link in the chat box. There's a place there where you can sign in. You can stick your name in there so that we know who was at the meeting. And if you don't feel like doing that, you don't have to. And I'll put that in there in case anybody came after the last time I posted it. And the agenda for this is usually really loose. I have an office that goes out a week beforehand that says if anybody wants to add anything to the agenda, feel free to do so. If you keep scrolling down on that agenda, it's got last month's agenda and meeting notes. And if you keep going down, you'll get all the way back to when we started doing the agenda this year. And I put a couple of things on there. I included an announcement that said I might be a few minutes late. I had to take my wife to the airport, and I wasn't sure if I would be back in time, and I wasn't. But I'm back now. So, but other than that, the kind of what we talk about is up to you guys, whatever you guys want to talk about. And was it Sarah that said you're not a Koha user yet? Is that what's going on, or?
Correct. My consortium PALNI, we are migrating to Koha currently. Our first cohort is migrating next month. And I believe there's about 24 libraries in our consortium, and I believe we all should be migrated by next year.
Well, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. And you don't just have to ask here. We have a mailing list. You can ask on the mailing list. My experience with Koha people is everybody is really ready, willing, and able to help out. So,
well, I don't want to turn it into just me picking everyone's brain about this, but I guess my main question is, does group circulation exist in Koha for consortiums?
So what is group circulation? What do you have now that you call group circulation? Because I don't.
Right, yeah. We use WMS right now, OCLC's World Share Management Services, and each institution has its own site essentially for WMS, and then we have a shared collection in WMS. So we're not all just branch libraries, right? We're all we have a shared collection, I guess, within circulation. And that's how we circulate our material amongst ourselves.
So are you wanting just certain materials to circulate between certain branches and not all branches?
No, we would like to, I mean, there are limits, obviously, but we would like to continue the service within Koha for our entire consortium.
So you mean sharing things from library to library?
Yes.
Yeah, that's totally what we do. That's what we
Okay.
do here. My situation is different. Jason and I both work for a regional library system, and we have member libraries. And one of the services that our regional system offers to one, and this is true with Amber too, where she's here still. She just turned off her camera, and that's cool. We work for regional library systems in Kansas, and one of the services we offer our members is they can join the shared catalog. And so our libraries, my libraries are on the northeast corner of Kansas, some of them are up near the Omaha border, and some of them are near the Missouri border. And if we have one library that's way up in the northwest corner of our service area in Seneca, and if the library in Richmond, which is at the far south end of our service area, wants to get something, they can just place a hold on it or a request on it, and it'll get sent to them through our statewide courier service. And that's true also for Jason and Amber at their regional systems. And then there are other people here that are in different types of consortiums, some of which aren't going to exist much longer, it sounds like.
Yeah, ours in Colorado works pretty similarly, where we have libraries all across Colorado, and they can all place hold on everything, and notifications pop up, and those get sent via our Colorado courier system.
Do you have branches like within these different libraries?
Yeah,
So
we do, yeah.
Yeah, and I have one library member that's a school district, and they have 4 schools in their group together. So they are all, and then I have another that's a district library, a county library with 4 branches. And so they all have individual entries in the libraries table in Koha for each branch. But then there's a feature that allows them to be grouped together as one group of libraries. For the longest time, the groups do a few things, and Colorado can speak to this better, but they have some situations where people in one corner of the state, there's a hurdle to jump through to they make it a little more difficult for something to be shipped from one corner of the state to the other. But for a long time in Koha, the groups didn't really do as much as they could, but in the new version that's being released, that's just been released, there's a way to do group holds so that the holds will fill in that group before they move on to other parts of the libraries. So, but Ben could probably speak more to the way that Colorado works.
I don't know. I feel like we've kind of moved away from doing the groups unless it's absolutely necessary. Like we definitely have some stuff that are kind of like locked down to groups. But yeah, I'm trying to think of an example of one where we have it set up that way towards that. But I know that we're very much looking forward to getting the new setup where it's everything is kind of prioritized by distance and things like that. But like we definitely have locations that are like sub-locations that aren't actually stops for the courier. And so like one library will get 2 or 3 libraries worth of items, and then they will deal with kind of sending them on to the next library. So I know that we have kind of some stuff that doesn't receive courier service but still gets item requests. And I know that's kind of how we use some of the grouping stuff, but yeah, Bob knows that stuff way better than I do.
All right, thank you. I figured as much. Otherwise, we wouldn't be moving to Koha. But it's really great to hear some different experiences within it. So thank you.
I'll chime in too, because you did mention that you have some exceptions about materials that you don't want to be shared. So that's the situation I'm in. It's kind of the opposite of Ben. I'm kind of heavily reliant on those groups because we have some libraries that have reciprocal borrowing agreement, but only for certain item types. So we probably have a lot more item types than you typically see in a Koha install, but that helps us control that flow of those items from one library to another.
Yeah, I would say that in my mind, that's where I think that us moving away from groups is we are really kind of, we rely a lot on like the circ rules on item types and things like that.
Yeah, currently we have levels of holds, right? So like level 1 is your institution, level 2 is like within the consortium, level 3 is just regular resource sharing and so on. And then everything is like a collection type policy. So basically it's by shelving location is how we limit sharing within our consortium.
With Koha, it's by item type. Is the circulation rules are controlled by the location, and there's different ways to set that. You can set circulation rules to follow the item's home library, the patron's home library, or the library where the item is being checked out at. But then the other things that factor into rules are the patron's category, what kind of a patron are they, and then the item type of the item. But that's one thing that I always find weird is, calling these things item types, because in other systems, like I used to be in a system that used CIRCE before CIRCE and Dynex moved, and it was the collection codes were what determined how things circed. And really what it was is that CIRCE just had a different word for item types than Koha did. And so that's one of the tricks with learning a new system, is learning, if you come into it with thinking item types are this thing that does this function, then when you switch to Koha, you might realize that in Koha calls what is called item types in Koha is what another system called collection or shelving location or something like that. So that's one of the things you have to learn, is that there's usually a new vocabulary. So
Yeah, thank you. I'm just like writing all of this down.
And I assume I didn't, yeah, the meeting is being recorded. So since I was late, I wasn't here when it said I did, and we don't have to start recordings anymore. So in a day or so, this will pop up on the YouTube feed. So if you want to relive the experience, you're welcome to do that. My experience is that as soon as I turn on a Koha video on the TV in the living room, the rest of my family leaves the room. So it's a great way to clear the room. Does anybody else have any questions or things that they're working on or things that are going on at their libraries that are interesting? Well, I did prepare a little bit. I put some bugs in the agenda that we could talk about. This is the one that I just mentioned, that allowing local holds priority to fill by hierarchical groups. Most of us are Bywater Solutions customers. I don't know if anybody here isn't a Bywater customer, but I just saw on their new calendar that we're scheduled for our upgrade to 2505. What day was that? We opted to be an early adopter this time around, so it's like August. There it is. August 19th is when we're scheduled to be upgraded. And I think everybody else is September 23rd. Or no, that's Aspen. Oh, yeah, it is. Koha upgrades the 22nd through the 25th, unless you're an early adopter. So I don't know if anybody is excited about the upgrade. And I've just started looking through the release notes, so I'm not sure what's in the release notes that might be relevant. Oh, and Sarah says they'll be with Equinox, so that's exciting. Do you know what version you'll be on when you start using Koha?
No idea.
Okay. That's exciting too.
Yeah.
It's a surprise.
It's a lot of we're figuring it out as we go along.
I would imagine most of us have been through a migration.
It's also, no one seems to be interested in Aspen. As we've been working towards migration.
None of your libraries are interested in Aspen Discovery?
No, it seems everyone's going with EDS.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
The main thing I do is Aspen. That's why I don't know as much about the grouping and things like that as Bob does, because I mess mostly with Aspen and I like it a lot. But
I can imagine in an academic situation, EDS might have more value to your users than Aspen. Although I think you can use Aspen with EDS with Aspen. So
yeah, you can. I used to work at a community college and we used both, and it was kind of like, any of the EBSCO stuff would kind of direct you towards the EDS, and then everything in the catalogs would direct you to the book stuff. I mean, would direct you to Aspen.
Cool.
And they were part of the consortium that I'm in now. So yeah, we support that kind of setup. So we have some libraries that do that and some that don't.
Christopher is texting a plug about the most recent video that we did. I was saying at the meeting yesterday, we were talking a little bit about one of the things we were talking about was template toolkit. And I said this year at the koha-US conference, Christopher and I will not be complaining about template toolkit or notices and slips, but just because he won't be there. So all your complaining about template toolkit and notices and slips will have to come from me. Somebody else said, well, what will you complain about? And I said, well, I'll complain about Christopher. So look forward to that if you're coming to the conference. So another bug that I did see in the release notes the other day, or somewhere the other day, was this bug is 5316. It's an old bug, but there's actually been some movement on it. I think this is the one that there's been movement on for limiting access to Z3950 targets to specific users. I guess the most recent update to it was 2024. But that's one I think that several people, it's a really good consortial bug that would be nice to have some work on. So you could say this Z3950 target is only available to people at a specific library. That would solve a lot of people's problems with, when I was at Latah County Library, some of the libraries had OCLC subscriptions and some didn't. So they could, access the OCLC Z3950 server, and other libraries couldn't, but we couldn't put that into Koha because that would give everybody in the consortium access to it. And so this would say, we could, a way to break that up in a library by library basis would be valuable to consortia. So I don't know if anybody here faces that issue or not. Everybody's shaking their head. So maybe it isn't that valuable.
No, it's got my cogwheels turning because we have an OCLC subscription here at the office that we use. But our libraries aren't allowed to use it because it costs money. But I could see where it would be handy for us to put that in for us and then hide it from everybody else, which probably could do a jQuery.
Yeah, that's what
I'm
we
thinking.
did. We have it as anyone who isn't, we have one library in one out of our 50 library systems that has an OCLC subscription. So well, not me, I was not part of the actual implementing of this, but we have it so that if the logged in library is not us at the consortium office or just that one individual library, it's hidden from the options. So it is doable.
Yeah, it's doable that way, but it's not as secure, because if somebody really wanted to, if somebody knew how, they could go in there and unhide
Just
it.
show it.
Yeah. It wouldn't take.
And sometimes when we have an update, it like resets some of that stuff, so then it shows up for other people. And this would be a much better solution. Yeah,
anything that can be built into Koha is a better solution that secures that a little better. So, but I thought that one, when I was poking around saying, oh God, what are we going to talk about tomorrow? I found a bunch of bugs. So I stuck those in there. So that one actually, seemed really consortia related. Another one that I came across, I don't remember why I was in there poking around in Bugzilla, but this one was there too. Make course reserves library specific. That's something that I would like to do definitely, because I only have, there's always like, you use course reserves as a displays module, don't you, Jason? And I can't use it as a displays module because I actually have a library that uses course reserves. I actually have one college library in my system, and so I can't do that without doing a lot of back end work to it. But one of the other things about having course reserves turned on means that it's on for everybody. And so it would be nice if there was a way to limit it to that one library so that it wouldn't be available at every library. Because that's something we do in training a lot is, well, people will ask, well, what's this reserves thing? Well, that's something you'll never use. So if they're not using it, I would prefer not to even have it visible. So other than, and that's another thing too, I could hide with jQuery, I suppose, but I don't. So. And Christopher's talking a lot in the chat, but he's not talking out loud. He just stuck one in there that's bug 40357.
Sorry, I'm multitasking.
I understand. So let's see if we can figure out why he sent this bug into the chat.
I can tell you.
Okay, there you go.
I had thrown out the idea of revamping the notices template. I noticed that, for every library that wants to customize their slips, I mean, you can have a default slip or notice, but if a group of libraries wants a custom slip or notice, you have to replicate that customization for every library. And it would be nice if there was a way in a template to specify groups of libraries, or cherry pick the libraries that want that specific template. So if they're picked in there, they're not going to the default, and this would reduce the number of templates that we're creating for notices and slips. It seems like it would be a little bit more efficient. We do this for other aspects of Koha, but we're not doing it here, and it seems like this would be a good movement forward, especially for Consortia.
Yeah, I agree. It would be almost nice if there was a select to where you could have a drop down when you're creating a slip and say it applies to these, 5 libraries instead of just having to make 5 copies of the same thing.
Right. So yeah, if this is of interest, please chime in on this ticket. Maybe we can get some developers keyed in on a good movement forward on this.
I already noticed that David Cook commented it sounds like a great idea, but then he also comments it's not one I'll be working on, but it's an interesting idea.
Yeah. Okay, so I have to say, and I guess I can turn my video on since I'm talking to you folks. I have to say, this is coming up because I am looking at our system and looking at all the things that I have to unravel as we dissolve our consortium, all the notices that have to be changed, and the wording, and it's like, good grief, there's a lot that we've done over the years. We've been in Koha since 2012, and there was a lot that we have modified and customized, and now I have to go through and pick apart every single thing that we've done. And so this was one of the things that I thought, man, this would be easier if those notices weren't for every single, if we didn't have those customizations for those groups of libraries, it would be easier to go through. One of the other things that I noticed too, that would be tremendously helpful in the future, especially for consortiums, is if Koha had more definable variables. Like I know that we have a place that we can define the URL for the catalog and things of that nature, but if there were common phrases or wording or something that we were doing over and over and over again, especially like in templates, if we had something that we could plug in there, then we'd only have one place that we'd have to go and change that if we needed to change it, rather than every single stinking little place that we have it in reports and within templates and so forth. So maybe someday that might be a thing.
Christopher, is anything taking its place, or is it just dissolved?
Right now, all I know is it's dissolving. So we've got 27 libraries that, for all we know, are going our separate ways. That could change. I don't know.
Okay.
Whenever you talk about this, I always think of the last line of the movie Chinatown. It's Chinatown, Jake. It's Chinatown. And your situation is it's Idaho. It's Idaho, Christopher. It's Idaho. What are you going to do? So I look forward to your presentation at the 2026 koha-US conference, where you do a presentation about how to disassemble a consortium that's existed for like 35 years.
Yes. Well, actually, it's been 40
Has it been
years
40?
that this consortium has existed. And yeah. So yeah, I was actually toying with the idea of, doing a presentation. Not that, we want to encourage a lot of libraries to do it, but it would be nice if there was some workflow or grid work for, how to do something like this, because, there really isn't a lot of information out there on how to do it. And so I'm having to think through, okay, what are we going to do with holds and with renewals and so forth. And right now I'm, we've got some smaller groups within our consortium. We have a set of 4 libraries in one group and a set of 7 libraries in another group. When they go their separate ways, how do we prepare for this, especially with the patrons? And we're trying to explore, okay, can we maintain holds within those groups and while separating the rest of the libraries and not allowing patrons from outside libraries from placing holds on those items, but allowing those movements still within those groups. And so I'm looking at the item holds and the item hold groups, trying to see if I can get that to work. So
It's Idaho, man.
yes.
So Miranda did put a link in there to the very old idea of creating just a separate display module, which I think everybody has +1'd at some point in the past. A lot of people repurposed the course reserves to a displays module, and Ed did a really good presentation on that a few years ago, and other people have done that. And it seems like, did you do a presentation on that one time, Jason, or about how you repurposed it? So, but it'd be nice if Koha just had a displays module. And this bug has been around since 2014, and there just hasn't been a lot of. I mean, the easiest way to get things done is to sponsor it, and nobody's sponsored it. So
This one has hung around long enough. I would love to see koha-US sponsored down the road.
So let me chime in there. If you would love to see a development that koha-US should sponsor, Step one is getting a quote from Bywater and getting it up on their dev site, because the dev committee uses that to sort of shop developments. So if it's not already on the crowdsourcing site and it's something you're interested in, me being part of the committee, would encourage you to get a quote and try and have Bywater put it up on their site.
Just out of curiosity, where is that site, Jason?
Here's a link in the chat.
What a great place to put a link. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff on the development crowdsourcing site that Bywater has. And we've done some developments. At least one of the developments we have done was not with Bywater. It was it with Calyx? Did we do one with
them? It's a
them?
fun story. No, there was one we did with a Linux users group in Texas.
That's
or
right.
a Perl users group in Texas, but then we ended up having to have Catalyst finish it off for us.
I thought
The
we
rest
did
of
one
them
with
have been through Bywater.
I thought there was one with Calyx. I guess I'm wrong. Or Catalyst. Okay.
Catalyst finished one off for us.
Catalyst finished one for us. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the one where we went with we were branching out and trying different developers, and one didn't work out so great, and they came in and rescued it.
The last bug that I put in the agenda was the this one that I'll put in the chat box. Limiting mark modification templates by user. I have been messing around with our mark modification templates because we want to do some different things with cataloging going forward. And this one has been around for a couple of years, but it would be nice if there was a way to say, the couple of things that there's another bug out there that I would have to look up, but there's one for the option of making more than one fast add framework. And that's a bug out there somewhere that I can look up in a minute. But this one would also help us a lot to be able to say, who can use this mark modification template. And it would be nice to be able to say, these frameworks, that would be another one I'd like to see, to be able to limit frameworks by differently than they are now. So, but this one I thought was really interesting, because we have a bunch of mark modification templates that are mostly used by me, but a couple of other people use them regularly. And it would be nice to be able to say, I don't want other people using some of these ones that I use for bulk cleanup, because they, if they have cataloging permissions and they need to use one or two of them, they have to have permission to use all of them. So, and Miranda just put in the link to the more than one fast add. That one's been around for a while too, and I think there might be a duplicate of this one out there somewhere. I think there's another one. Or am I looking at the wrong one? I opened the wrong window. Actually, the bug that Miranda put in there opens a bug with a different title.
Oops. I was
The
like
link,
keeping one in tow for my next comment.
okay, the one you put the link in there for looks interesting too. Merging biblio
Yeah.
records with attached item groups loses groups. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so this just came up. We've been doing a lot of merging of records where both records have item groups, and when you merge one, only the ones that are on the original record, or the one that you retain the item groups. And so whenever we have to do something that has a lot of items or a lot of item groups, we open a ticket with Bywater and have them do it. And the recent ticket, they referred me to this bug, which I hadn't seen before. It was reported in 2022. So I just commented on it a few days ago to try to get some more movement on it.
I think there's something similar too in that lists get kind of messed up with the merging of records as well. They, some things fall off the grid.
Ooh.
I think there's another ticket out there for that as well.
So
Yeah,
merging lists or merging items that are, or merging titles that are on lists. I can see where merging titles that are on lists, if you merge something where there's a biblio on a list and you merge that biblio into a different one, that would probably remove it from the list. Is that the kind of problem that that bug describes? Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, when you're merging records, there's a lot of, of that fringe stuff that kind of gets missed. The developers look at the basics and don't realize, oh, well, we've tied in, these records and all these different other aspects, and the lists fell off of that concept, and it looks like the item groupings fell off of that, and who knows how many other things.
Can I switch topics a little bit?
Sure.
I'm going to keep my camera off because I don't have very good bandwidth here. I'm not sure if this is actually a consortium issue or if it's a FERC issue, so just let me know if this is not appropriate. But it's regarding SIP connections at our member libraries for the self-checks, for example. We are having an issue where the SIP connections are simultaneously dropping connection. And it's whether it is a Envisionware machine or a Biblioteca machine. So it doesn't matter which brand it is. And looking at the logs, it seems to happen at around the same time. It's actually exactly the same time across the consortium. Is anyone else experiencing anything similar?
Yes, we had the exact same thing. Yeah, are you
awesome? Oh my God, that makes me feel so good.
you're losing all of your SIP, not just the self checkouts?
I don't know, because we mostly only have self checkouts.
Okay.
We have one.
Us, yeah, is we're losing, like, the self checkout machines are kind of the canary, right? And then the calls start coming in, hey, we can't access Hoopla, we can't access Libby. So all of our SIP was going down. Wasn't at the exact same time, but it was in a window. It was from like 10 a.m. to noon every day. Are you hosted by Bywater?
We are hosted by Bywater, and we've recently moved to Cloudflare.
Okay.
However, we were experiencing this issue before Cloudflare.
Okay.
Also.
And you changed your SIP domain to the .io address with your vendors?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I would open a ticket with Bywater, ask them to do for you what they did for us. From my understanding, they put a patch on our system that monitors SIP, looks for those spikes in traffic that is killing it, and then restarts the service before it comes crashing down. And we've been good for about 2 weeks now, whereas before it was happening every day.
Awesome. Okay. And you're Alex from RCLS?
RCLS, yes.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And that was totally legitimate. Don't worry about whether or not this is the proper forum to ask a question, because otherwise everybody will be really quiet. Anything else going on with anybody? We got about 10 minutes left, so.
I know it's been brought up here in the past, but I was wondering if anyone knows, has there been any progress on getting the mark edit koha connection back? I kept looking, I saw there was one conversation, I think somewhere in Slack, that looked a little bit promising, but there has been no update since then. So I feel like it kind of is dead in the water.
I know that it stopped working for me, and I've been too busy to even ask about it. So I wasn't aware there was a conversation in Slack. Is that in Bywater Slack, probably?
Yeah, let me go try to find it.
I don't know how many people have got Mark Edit integrated into Koha the way I did. The way I have it integrated is that I can do a Z3950 search from Mark Edit and bring the records into Mark Edit through Z3950. And then I was able to update them because I had my username and password logged in. And so Koha would update those. And I think that broke with some security stuff that was related to another issue. But I think what really needs to happen is that Mark Edit needs to switch to using the API if it is what it's going to take to fix it. And that would be a Mark Edit thing as much as a Koha thing. I think that would be the ultimate way to fix it, because I think right now Mark Edit isn't trying to use the API, it's trying to do something different. And I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I think that that's the issue. So I do have Mark Edit set up now to where I can still retrieve the records from Z3950, but then when I want to update them, I actually export them as a mark file and then use the stage mark to do that updating. So it's an extra step, but it's still better than a lot of the other options that I've used in the past. But I don't know how many people here are using Mark Edit, have Mark Edit connected to Koha like that. Jason does, so I don't see any other hands. So
yeah, but I definitely missed that functionality. It seems like it broke when the CSRF stuff all came in. It was right around the same time.
That's exactly it. It was CSRF. I couldn't remember the right set of initials. And thanks, Miranda. I'll have to look on Mattermost to look for that. So
I've got a question, George and Christopher. We just started using the Koha tool for patron deletion and anonymization. Got the word out. Do you use the anonymization? Do you have a mechanism that does that outside of that?
So I don't use the anonymization tool in Koha because we have our system set to purge all of that data after it's 13 months old. So we're not keeping the data long enough really to make the anonymization part of that tool really useful. Okay. Since we've switched to Aspen Discovery, so one of the things I inherited with this job was that almost everybody, when new cards are created at almost all of our libraries, the patron remember my history was set to forever. For almost every new patron, it was opt out, not opt in, and I would prefer to have it opt in instead of opt out. And now that we've switched to Aspen Discovery, it gives us more options for our patrons. And so I'm looking more along the lines of going over the next couple of years to switching to fully opt out or opt in instead of opt out. But that's going to be a hard thing to sell to some of our libraries. So it's going to take some time.
Yeah, we've been an opt-in system, so we don't hold on to patron information unless the patron wants to hold on to their stuff, and we spell out what that can mean in the system, and that the staff doesn't have access to some of the things that they do opt in to hold on to. Doesn't mean that it's totally impenetrable, but yeah, we have patrons opt in for that, and when we joined in 2012, it was very basic. They've made some adjustments since then for that anonymization. I think mostly with time frames, you know, when it happens and what it affects, because you know we were losing some valuable information for late items. You know, we would want to hold on to those links that to those patrons as long as items were checked out or haven't been returned. And we were losing some things somewhere along the lines, and it's improved over the years. But definitely, you know, it's something that you want to spell out with your vendor if you're using a vendor. Spell out how long you want to hold on to information and in what areas, and they can map that out for you and let you know if the anonymizing works for you. Was there something specific that you were curious about?
Well, again, this is the first time we've tried using that tool. Otherwise, we would put in a ticket to buy water and we would run a report and then delete off of that report. But now that we're using the tool, I just wondered if anonymization, you know, down the road could cause some issues, because we purge twice a year for cards 3 years and older. And, you know, we're going to keep the checkouts you were talking about, the patrons with items checked out, the patrons with balances. It doesn't touch those, but I'm pretty sure we will use the anonymization. I just wondered if anybody had any experiences with that and could pass along. Christopher, didn't you say your system does it in a different way?
Not sure what other way you're thinking of. I mean, like I said, we have the patrons opt in if they want to retain data. Otherwise, everything is, you know, anonymized after, I think, a month or two. You know, our checkouts, our long overdues are 30 days out, and we're trying to hold on to it within a certain time frame after that, but then, you know, it falls off the grid and is anonymized. We haven't had any problems using it. We haven't run into any big issues with it. I think the only thing, well, okay, I would say that the only thing that I don't like is that if there is some stuff that falls off the grid, like for example, I'm trying to remember, I have some like hotspots that don't get returned, and it's been months and months and months, and I go to look at who's used those items, who was the last person to check those out, and some of that data is a little sketchy because it loses those links in the item itself. It may retain this information in the patron billing or accounting, but on the other end, when I'm looking at the item itself, on some of those last borrowers, it's anonymized, and it's like because we don't have the item checked out to the patron any longer after it's gone long overdue. There were some logistics why we did that. So we do lose some connection on the staff side, which is unhelpful. There are ways to get around that with some reports. You know, if you're looking through the accounting information, you can gather that information and relink some stuff through reports. But otherwise, that's the only thing that we've run into. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, we would hang on to our data for 3 years at least. You know, it's pretty popular in our system that patrons rely on their reading history to determine what they're going to check out. next, oh, I read this, I read that. But, so like if we did like in your case every month or so, that would really throw a wrench into the way it works.
You know, I mean, you know, unless you prepare your patrons and let them know, you know, you're doing this for privacy and security, and you know, get them on board to opt in on those settings beforehand. And I can't remember if you do that, I don't think they lose anything, but it may stop them from accumulating stuff going forward unless they opt in. I can't remember, you know, the settings. You have to do a little bit of research on that.
The options for patrons are to never remember history, to remember it for the default amount of time, and the default can be set from library to library, or is set by library policy, and then is remember forever. And when I here where I am in Kansas, we have it so that we have Bywater running a cron that just deletes all the history after 13 months. And when I was in Idaho, the way that we had it set up was that we didn't run the tool that you're talking about. We did initially, but then we had Bywater running a cron for us. And so patrons were set at the default reading history. And then they could opt to switch to never remember my reading history or remember it forever. And the default was, I think we had the cron running so that it would remove that history after, I think we had it at 90 days or something like that. And so it was just a matter of teaching patrons, you know, if you want this to remember it forever, you've got to go in there and change this flag on you've got to log into the computer, go to your account, click on this tab, and then change it from default to forever. Or if you don't want it to remember anything, you've got to go in there and switch that to never. And so that it was a matter of patron training. But we didn't run the cron other than the first couple of times. And then after that, I asked Bywater if they could set it up to run automatically, and they did. But here, where I'm at in Kansas now, forever and default are both obfuscated by the patron purge, or by the purge tables that we have set up to purge the data. So it doesn't matter what you are, it's never going to be more than 13 months old. So
Joel, are you using Aspen?
Yes.
And I think George
Yeah.
alluded to this, but I think Aspen maintains that information
separately.
outside. Yeah, so I mean, you can be as strict as you want on anonymizing and purchasing, on anonymizing and purging that information, but patrons using Aspen won't be as affected.
Yeah, in Aspen, you have to turn it, the patron has to go in and say, remember my history, and Aspen will remember it independently of Koha. So even if you purge the data from Koha, Aspen will retain the data. So you might want to look into that too. And then mainly it would be a matter of training your patrons to getting your patrons some resources on how to use that. So we've gone over and a whole bunch of people have left. So unless anybody has anything else urgent or anything that they want to talk about, we should probably call this good so we're not hogging everybody's lunch hour, or at least it's my lunch hour starting here. Everybody else, it's brunch, I suppose, in the West Coast, and it's I don't know where everybody is. So
only 10 o'clock.
Yeah, it's noon here. I'm hungry. I will see you all next time around, or at another meeting before that if I don't see you before then. So
All right.
good to see
Thank
everybody.
you all. Bye-bye.
Bye, Christopher. Or other Christopher. See you later.